Hi dear friends, in this short lesson let me show you one of the most common problems with students who take tests, and specifically on the section speaking. It refers to writing as well, but you know, when you speak fast, of course you have less time to think, to correct something. That's why this problem applies to a greater extent. So this problem is, let me put it into words, because you know, we are honest people and we have been taught from our birth to tell the truth. Let's put it like this, let's put it into simple words. Always to tell the truth. When you don't tell the truth, you are a bad guy. I understand that, of course, regarding our relationship with each other or something like that, it may really be applied, but I have seen hundreds of times how this philosophy ruins the answer of guys at Duolingo Speaking, IELTS Speaking, etc. So I have opened one of the questions at Duolingo Speaking, specifically Duolingo Speaking interview, the last question on the test, where you have to speak for 3 minutes. So let's read this question and I will explain you what the problem is and how to get around this problem. What is something you think teenagers should be allowed to do, but are not currently allowed to do by law? Why do you believe teenagers should have this freedom, and why do you think it is currently prohibited? You see, actually, in this question we have two sub-questions, because the first one like a question, but the second one is not a new question. It only helps you to think about the first question. It's like one and the same, the first and the second. Because if I say that I think so, of course, logically, in any test on the world, it's expected of you to say why, yeah? But the second one, why do you think it is currently prohibited? This is the second sub-question. So we have two sub-questions, the first one and the second one. Okay, remember about this, because very often you forget this second sub-question. So I have opened it randomly. I tell you, I didn't think about it, I didn't decide which question to open. My task now is to demonstrate to you the problem and the solution to the problem. The solution may not be so easy as you think, because we work on this with my students at my online lessons always. So very often this question appears and the student sits and looks at the screen like it's some miraculous thing, because they don't understand. They understand the question, but firstly they have never thought about it, but it's only part of the problem. And secondly, if you're a normal person, you will think most probably that what is prohibited by law today to kids is okay, that it should be done so. For example, let's say teenagers shouldn't be using drugs, shouldn't be drinking alcohol, shouldn't be, I don't know, smoking some chemical bull, shouldn't be driving cars until they are, I don't know, 16 or 15 or something like that, and shouldn't be, for example, let me exercise my mental capacities, not take part in the elections, yes, and for example not marry until they are, I don't know, 15 or 16, something like that. If we sit with you peacefully and philosophize on this, we will decide, we will concur that it is okay. Why it is okay? Because the precedential law, everything in this world is mostly, not always, mostly based on some precedents, and the precedents are based on some bad and good events taking place in the world within centuries. So everything that the government does in theory is good. So how can I create within 20 seconds of preparation to this question something that is like not good? You see, it contradicts my normal philosophy, and that's where the students trip over. The tripping point is that they sit, I say, look into the screen, and sometimes they sit for 1 minute, they sit for 2 minutes, sometimes they start the answer. Like, from my point of view, one thing that teenagers are not allowed to do, but that they can do is, and then they stare into the screen again. The same problem. Why? Because we are honest people and we agree with the generally accepted laws in this world. So, my friend, remember, please, it's one of the greatest, I don't know, doctrines that should be applied to the test of English. Remember, Tests of English are standardized tests of your English language, and sometimes cognitive abilities. They're not the tests of your psychological applicability to some important, I don't know, job, something like that. Nobody cares about your mental condition during the test. That's why, even if you speak some nonsense, let's say not semi-nonsense, but let's call it nonsense just to save time, it's okay, you will get a high score. For example, regarding this question, in regard to this question, I can say that I know that teenagers are not allowed to use drugs, like recreational drugs like cannabis. But I don't agree with that, because they have a lot of stress in their lives. You know, they have bad marks, and very often they have stress in the family, and they are human beings. So why, adults have this right to pacify like their condition and their psyche, and the kids, they cannot, or they may not. Why it is so? It's unfair. So I think that the governments should pass these laws that kids can, I don't know, take marijuana, for example, cannabis oil or pills since they are 10, something like that. You will say it's nonsense, maybe. I think philosophically, maybe yes, but who cares? You have a choice either to speak or to look at the screen and not produce anything. Or, for example, let's take maybe not so drastic example, not so drastic reason, or maybe children must be allowed to drive cars since they are 10 again. Like, why can't 12-year-olds drive cars? We can provide special seats to them, that they see the road, and maybe they have better reflexes than those old guys, yes, who don't see where they're driving. So why is it so? You see, so it's stupidity, maybe yes, maybe gibberish, yes, but who cares? You have a choice either to sit and stare into the screen or get a high score. I'm sure Duolingo algorithm will not sit and think whether you are a normal person or you are mentally, not even mentally, like psychologically retarded or perverted. You see, this is this stumbling block for many guys. Think about it, that nobody has the right in this world to ask the truth of you, probably with the exception of the police, prosecutors, something like that. Even there, you have the inborn right to keep silent or to produce some lies. It's a philosophical question. But apart from the police and prosecutors and some special secret those agencies, nobody in this world has the right to require that you provide the truth. And the majority of you try to think about some truth when you answer the questions at test. It's a big mistake. Let's open one more. Maybe, I don't know honestly what will pop up and discuss. Just in 1 minute I will show you. Talk about your closest friend. Why do you consider them a great friend? How have you supported each other? It's such a question to describe to talk about. Most you will not have problems because you will speak about some friend. Okay. Or how have you supported? I think 99% of you have had a friend in your life, and maybe you have helped each other, so this no problem. Let's take the next one. Okay, let's read this. What are some risks of using social media? How can individuals avoid getting hooked on social media? How would their lives get better if they spent less time on screens? Okay, this is not so maybe radical as about kids and drugs, but the same. You're looking at this question. Your mind sees risks. Social media. Hooked on social media means become obsessed, become dependent on social media. How would their lives get better if they spent less time? It's a typical question, yeah? By the way, this question doesn't leave any choice to us on the first glance, because how would their lives get better if they spent less time on screens? Maybe I don't agree to this, you see? I don't agree. Maybe I think that the more time kids spend on social media, the less time they spend doing some illegal activities in certain countries. You see, maybe. But again, this is an English test. They don't give a rip about my truth or my outlook, something like that. So give them what they want. So a priori, I will speak about like this, really, that their lives will get better if they spend less time on screens, if they exercise sports, paint, draw, make sculptures, go visit new places, communicate with friends, go to cafes, drink coffee, something like that, even if I don't think so. What are some risks of using social media? I may think that there are no risks in using social media. Yeah, apart from maybe some little dependence, but who cares? You know, it's better than, you know, I'm 46 years old and I'm from Ukraine. I remember those 1990s when it was not so easy for you. It was dangerous to exit your flat and to go out because the criminal rate, like criminal activity, was so well developed that, you know, so I mean that in those times we didn't have social media. If we had social media, maybe more teenagers would sit in those social media, stare at those stupid screens, play those stupid computer games, and wouldn't, like, they weren't doing then some illegal activities, you see. And there were a lot of those illegal activities. Part of those guys are already dead, part of them are in jails, part of them are millionaires, but it was so like bad, dirty and aggressive. So even if I think that there are no risks, I will speak about risks of social media. You see, my friend, that's the eternal conflict going on within you when you read those questions, and you have just a couple of seconds to decide what to speak about, and it's not so easy for many of you to switch, you know. So I see this, my mind says, there are no risks of using social media. Why should I speak about this nonsense? But then I say, risk, dependence, okay, attachment, yes, maniacs, something like that. Okay, I will use about this, that they sit all day long and so on. How can they get hooked? How can they get hooked? They usually get hooked by virtue of constant flipping of those constant changes of images, you know, that the period of concentration gets less and less, and so clever guys know this, and they provide such principles in those social media that you flip with your finger, you swipe, you change images, your mind is interested because it does not get bored. In this case, in this way, you get hooked on those social media. This is their main secret, something like that. But so this question maybe resonates with me, maybe. Okay, that's it. This one, you remember, even if I think that social media are good, I will speak about that. If not for social media, children would do more sports, travel more, read more, of course, normal books, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, my friend, I'm sorry for bothering you for such a long time, but I hope that you have heard me, and I'm sure a lot of you need this, because as a tutor I see this almost every day, this problem that when we get to speaking, you know, when we proceed, a lot of you get stuck, get stunned. They stare at the screen and they, you know, yeah, maybe you're not an exception. So remember, please, invent, create. Even if we use such a word as lie to them. It's your duty and your mission, but many of you hate the word lie, so let's substitute it with the word create. Create right on the spot. Create. Do whatever you are destined to do here and forget about them. You know, forget about this test. Take the test, forget about the test. Nobody is interested in your deep, inherent beliefs. Nobody, especially the Duolingo English test or IELTS or TOEFL or something like that. Okay, my friend, if you need urgent assistance in your test preparation, please write to me, to my email or to my Telegram, WhatsApp. I help guys on a regular basis, and on my website you can find testimonials and rates, the price of the lessons, everything. Soon I will publish a great course, video course for your independent preparation, which will comprise about 81 or 82 video lessons of about 15 minutes each. Of course I will put it on my website and I will make a video about this. I hope it happens within 2 weeks or something like that. So this course will allow you to get ready for Duolingo just on your own in 1 month or 3 weeks or couple of months, depending on your the amount of free time. Okay, my friend, I love you all and see you in our next lesson.